Stanley Kurbrick. The American-born film director Stanley Kurbrick is a name that strikes controversy upon the media and the film industry to this day. His true nature of conspiracy, manipulation, and secrecy remains debated by film critics. Was Stanley Kurbrick as authoritarian on set as the media depicts him to be? I'm sure you've all seen a clip of Christian Bale on the set of Terminator Salvation breaking down over a cinematographer distracting his performance.
You off the fucking set, you prick!
Presumably, set members not coordinating must be frustrating. So this raises the question, were film directors like Stanley Kubrick just sociopathic perfectionists who were lacking empathy for their cast members, or were they just getting frustrated with the disobedience of their actors? Some background context surrounding Stanley Kubrick. He was born in 1928 in New York, though he's classified as an English director due to his move in England in 1961. He was deathly afraid of flying and never flew back to America. As a teenager, he worked as a photographer for Look magazine. With a meticulous, perfectionist approach and a deep curiosity about human nature, Kubrick quickly gained attention for his bold style and storytelling. With his knowledge on cameras and photography, Kubrick stated it's easy to make a film, so in 1952 he launched his first feature-length film, Fear and Desire. His debut, Fear and Desire, got terrible reviews, and it wasn't until 1955 where he produced Killer's Kiss, where he began his true cinematic journey. Kubrick was known to be extremely demanding and obsessive on set. Most actors describe their experience as physically and emotionally exhausting. A great example to look at whether Kubrick was truly obsessive and demanding on set was the 1971 A Clockwork Orange. The film itself was massively controversial due to its disturbing scenes and odd storytelling. It was banned in most states, including England. The disturbing torture scenes strained a huge impact on lead actor Malcolm McDowell. Kubrick pushed McDowell through physically demanding and often dangerous scenes with little concern for his comfort. One of the most notorious moments in this film was the Ludvigo technique scene. Within this scene, McDowell's eyes were pried open with metal clamps. During filming, McDowell's cornea was scratched by the clamps and he temporarily went blind in one eye. He also cracked a rib during one of the restraint scenes. McDowell later said he felt used, admitting he wasn't fully aware of how punishing the experience would be.
Stanley, I think what stops him from being a genius, for me, is this lack of humanity.
McDowell respected Kubrick's genius and he's often felt honoured to star in A Clockwork Orange, a film that made him internationally famous. He acknowledged Kubrick's talent and craftsmanship, calling him a true auteur. During the time of filming, this was McDowell's first film and he was relatively young. This made him a subject to emotional and physical abuse due to the exploitation of his young age. After the film was finished, McDowell lost all contact with Stanley Kubrick. McDowell said he was deeply hurt by this due to the developing relationship during the film's making. In later interviews, McDowell admitted he felt used and abandoned, saying, "It was like I was thrown out with the rubbish."
They say, well, what was he like as a man? What was he like as a human being? I think that's probably the test that he doesn't do well at.
Now, it was only really until Clockwork Orange that Stanley Kubrick was announced as this demanding and psychotic character on set. Kubrick believed the only way to get a level of realism was by pushing actors far beyond their limit. During the production of A Clockwork Orange, he had full creative control, meaning that there was no studio interference with what he could do and what he couldn't do. The freedom of authority may have led his darker tendencies to come out. A prime example of whether Stanley Kubrick was the oppressive director the media depicts him as is the 1980 The Shining. Almost immediately after The Shining was released in 1980, rumours began to emerge about Shelley Duvall's alleged mistreatment.
Oh, come on. What do you mean roll video? We're killing ourselves out here and you're going to be ready.
I am too. I'm standing
we
right
play
by
mood
the
music?
door. No, I can't
Yeah, but when you
hear.
came out like this, it is.
Duvall has since called the experience hellish and said her hair began falling out from the stress.
And they said video rolling and all that, and I got all ready, jump up and down, and then they said, never mind.
The truth is that Shelley Duvall repeatedly defended Kubrick and his methodology for years before her death. This contrasts Kubrick's treatment of Jack Nicholson. Kubrick had a much more collaborative relationship with Jack Nicholson, allowing him to improvise on set and treating him with significantly more respect, adding to the emotional imbalance of the two actors. As many may know, Stanley Kubrick famously demanded multiple takes of the same shot. The iconic staircase scene in The Shining where Jack Nicholson walks towards Shelley as she walks back swinging her bat was famously shot 161 times. Whether the numbers are true or not, I think this goes to show how Kubrick pushed Shelley Duvall to the limit of exhaustion. His next film, Full Metal Jacket from 1987, was a war film depicting the Vietnamese War. This film is rich in expressing the extensive planning and perfectionist directing style that Stanley took. The atmosphere was somewhat different compared to The Shining and A Clockwork Orange. The shoot was still long and intense. The reports of psychological manipulation or cruelty were less extreme. Kubrick was massively impressed with the performance of Sergeant Hartman, allowing him to improvise 50 to 60% of his lines, which is something Kubrick had never done previously.
He came up no, but if you had a tea break at 4, you don't have to break for this tea break. This must just be a complimentary tea break. If you broke for tea at 4, you don't have to break for tea at 6, at quarter to 7, then break for a meal at 7:30. So figure it out.
As you mentioned before, Kubrick was notorious for making actors do dozens, sometimes hundreds of takes to get a scene exactly right. For Barry Lyndon, this was a prime example. Within this, the filming of Barry Lyndon took a very long time, around 18 months. Kubrick's slow shooting style meant long hours on set, very slow pace, which could be mentally and physically draining. And as we know from Full Metal Jacket, Kubrick was often against taking breaks during shooting time. Kubrick insisted period accuracy in everything to do with the aesthetic. The most famous example of this was the lighting. He only used natural candlelight for most of the scenes, which required an extremely technological and expensive camera that could deal with the aperture of extremely low light. This obsession with realism created pressure for all cast members. The lighting, costume design, set design had to be exactly accurate to period times. Stanley Kubrick's last film, Eyes Wide Shut from 1999, tracks the most conspiracy and secrecy of all of his films. The full film was never released and Stanley Kubrick died from a heart attack a fortnight later. Within this film, Stanley Kubrick's obsession with detail hit its absolute peak. Stanley did dozens of takes for even the most simplest of scenes, sometimes over 60 or 70 takes of just walking through a door or holding a glance. Tom Cruise reportedly had to walk through a doorway 95 times to one shot. Kubrick would change tiny elements like posture, eye movement, or timing, and reshoot it. The intensity of Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise's relationship at the time was evident in the film. They both described the experience as emotionally and physically demanding. People often say this film led to Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise's divorce in 2001. So now here comes to the conclusion. Was Kubrick as obsessive and demanding on set as people say? Despite all the evidence against him, I don't think he was massively obsessive. Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching this video.